We met 3-4 weeks ago, right in the same spot. We talked a lot about the public health study from Public Health Seattle and King County and all of the impacts for aviation, noise, and pollution happening right above our heads and right above our houses and our schools. We also talked a lot, if you remember, about how the Port of Seattle has a lot of internal information that it is choosing not to share with its own citizens, which has now become known as this Ramble Report. We're going to talk more about that document that the port doesn't want to share with its citizens today. But kind of the agenda for today is, some of you might have seen that between that last meeting that we had 3 or 4 weeks ago and today, this big thing happened, right? A class action lawsuit was filed against the Port of Seattle, Alaska Airlines, and Delta Airlines. And so on our agenda today is we're going to talk about that a little bit. I'm going to talk about it a little bit and try to answer questions from the perspective that, you know, I have had no knowledge of that before it was filed. So I can kind of be a whisperer about it, but I'm certainly not a behind the scenes part of that lawsuit. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about why elections matter from the standpoint of aviation issues. Why should we really be paying attention? Not just, you know, our national elections and state elections, but our county and port and city elections. Why does that matter? What should we be thinking about? So those are kind of the two things: elections and the lawsuit. But this should be more informal this time than it was last time. Last time it was a lot of talking because we had a lot of information and kind of an agenda to get out. And today I think we're hoping that we do some talking and a lot of conversing. You probably have a lot of ideas, things we haven't talked about, things you want to talk about. So we're going to do that. So Sheila, why don't I turn it over to you for the rest of the setup, introduction, anything we didn't cover. Okay?
So I want to thank everybody who's done a records request, but I'm going to ask you to now ask others to do it. We're at 47. I would love to get to 50, but our goal is 100. And if any of you read the lawsuit, you might notice in the margin, it references Edmiston versus the Port of Seattle over the Ramble Report. So this is a perfect time for us to really put pressure on the Port of Seattle and get the unredacted copy of this infamous report. What are they hiding? So as I said, and I'm thrilled with 47 since we went on the 16th was kind of the go live date, but let's push it to 50 and then let's eventually get 100. So remember, you can do more than one per household if there's 2 of you. Doesn't matter if you're married, it can be, it's an individual. And so I want to thank you for that. Steve and I were at an event down at in South Park, and Commissioner Felleman was there, and he asked, what can I do? We talked to him about the Ramble Report. He was unaware of it. And I said, you can start showing up. And so if somebody wants to grab him, I promised him we weren't going to beat him up, but I did say that we would give him a minute to say hello. And the fact is that he showed up. So this is our Port Commissioner, Fred Felleman, who is up for re-election.
And I was, thank you, but I was trying to not listen in on this. This is obviously your own business, and I would like to see what you're up to, but not when you're, the degree to which you're suing the port. That's your business. I'm not here to dissuade you otherwise, but I do understand that there's concerns that some of which the port can address and others that we can't. But if I can, I was just back in DC for a week, and right now I know that some of the commissioners are back carrying the START recommendations, and so the fact that the port and the surrounding communities are able to advocate for stuff collectively, this is incredible, where we can find alignment.
So first, thank you for being here. I think that is it's a hard place to be. So second, I want to make sure that you know, just because we haven't even had a chance, nobody in this room, including Sheila and I, have anything to do with the lawsuit. We I was as surprised as you may have been. Maybe you know about it, but I didn't know about it.
As I walked in, you were talking about class action.
Oh, we're talking about it. We're talking about it. We're talking about it. So, but I want to ask this. The only thing I'm going to do to put you on the spot a little bit is when we were at that meeting with the Beacon Hill meeting, and we gave you a copy of the Ramble Report. Can we just see it? Can't five commissioners? Can't you go to the next commission meeting and say, you know what, executive director, this is killing us. Just give them the report. Why are we withholding it? Because that is, to me personally, you can't get over the trust and transparency issue, and you're killing yourself. This thing is going to just be the worst nightmare ever, because it's the thing that communities grab onto and say, why can't we know what you know? Why can't we know?
It's like, you know that I've been outside the port longer than I've been inside the port. I came here when the first cruise ship arrived in 2000. So I've been on the receiving end of the port probably longer than most. And it is that kind of reaction that I understand. I felt it myself. And I asked, once you brought it to my attention, to see the letter that was transmitted to you from Rouse, just to understand how he justified the explanation. And I saw the report, it was heavily redacted, and I have received reports like that from other government agencies, and I know the sentiment it engenders. It's actually, the content of the report is not as bad as what you don't see. And so I totally appreciate that concern. I have been told that I will receive a copy of that transmission letter. You have it, so I would love to see it. But also I was told that I can't really fully understand unless I have a briefing memo that understands the context. That was before the class action lawsuit.
Yeah.
So I have, that memo might be changed, but I haven't received the memo. But immediately after you brought that to my attention, I asked for it. But you could probably just get it to me, you know. I'm really just interested in the way we articulate ourselves to the community. We may still say you can't get it, but it should be done in a way that explains ourselves.
So the issue on that, on the Ramble reports, and I can't tell you how grateful I am that we're just having a civil discussion about it. The issue with the Ramble report is I don't think there's any greater public health concern that any of the communities have than what's the rate of our death relating to noise and pollution. And the port staff, once it commissioned the Ramble report and saw it, then basically said no one else can ever see this. I mean that's not really disputable. It got round filed, and then when I asked for it, and now we have 50 some people asking for it now, you know, we've got the copy where any commentary, anything other than, you know, the introductory things like, oh, now we're going to talk about how many people died. Redact. It just seems like it's not garden. Let me just say it this way: it's not garden variety redaction. Like, you don't need to know about my financial condition. You don't need to know about the contract I work with another vendor. This is life and death, right? I mean, that's what the public health study is: life and death. People lose 5 years off their life if they live within a mile of the airport. So the notion that it's okay to not give us, and it's a choice. There's no statute that requires the port to withhold it. It might come up with a rationale to withhold it, but that's a choice, absolutely a choice that you and the commissioners and the executive director, Metric, and the staff, you have a choice to say transparency is paramount. If we have information that says we're dying, the community needs to know it. So I don't understand why you can't ask for it.
Challenge the redaction? Didn't you challenge our
I sued the port, and I failed because of the statute of limitations, which has no bearing on the next 50 people who have now asked for the document.
Okay,
right?
Good.
So
you reteed it up.
Yeah, but Fred, none of that. Are you telling me that I have to win a lawsuit? If you're telling me I have to win a lawsuit, now you're on the bad side. You're on the wrong team if you're saying the only way to get the report is a lawsuit, right? Because it's this is a layup. If it's a
I'm
layup.
arguing with you that there are rules in which, you know, the works in progress and there are other standards of
There are
you know, clear reasons for not transmitting.
No. There are
No,
reasons.
but
Yeah.
there are legal parameters. All I did was ask for understanding what they were. So I have no opinion in terms of their justification of it. But because you brought it to my attention, I've asked for it. I've yet to receive it. If you want to bring me something that you received,
Well, I can send
I'd
you
be
all the
happy to
records.
see it.
Yeah,
I would really appreciated seeing the heavily redacted report. I wouldn't have known to ask. You brought it to my attention, so I did.
So
And,
I'm not
right now, it's not completely in our discretion to release whatever we want, because there are constraints on certain things. There is a discretionary amount, and so, you know, we could err on one side or the other, and I would prefer to err on transparency. And I am interested to know, I'm not going to let this go.
I
I'm
appreciate
going to
that.
drink it down. I will find out why it is. You shouldn't have to sue us.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
you know,
where we
this
are.
is like,
That's
like
where
I
we
said,
are right now. So
I'm
thank
a
you.
public official.
So someone else may have a question. I want to say thank you for that debate. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. Anybody got another topic, or what, did we beat it to death? I appreciate that we did that. So someone should buy him a drink. That's tough. That's tough duty.
Do I get a freebie on that?
It's important. Yeah.
Where's my drink picture? Can I ask you a question?
Yes, of course.
So, you know, one of the most pressing issues that have come to our attention, and if you guys are writing to the court, are you CCing us, the commission? Because I don't know, I haven't seen 50 letters asking for this report. So if you don't CC us, we don't know that you're doing
Public records.
They're public records
But
requests.
you can copy us.
I will actually
Not
I'll
in
do
the
a
request.
Yeah, no, one time out. I will do a screenshot of how many people have filed that request, and I will send a letter to
It's
all
just
you
a way of us
commissioners.
to know that this inquiry is
Absolutely,
out there.
I'll take care of
Helps
that
us.
tomorrow.
We'll just ask the same question. It might be an executive session. It might not be for public disclosure, but we at least understand what's going on.
Maybe you can ask the court to actually CC you the records requests. Is that possible?
No, I'm actually worried about things like that. Like, look, if you know important constituents of ours are asking for sensitive information, we should at least know there's a question pending, and that happens sometimes.
I'm happy to send an email to all the commissioners, bringing it to your attention directly. And
So, North sea-tac Park, you ever hear of that?
Yeah.
Of course. And so, you know, this has been really a sea-tac issue primarily, but I'm just wondering, to the degree this is an issue for communities somewhat afar from the park.
I mean, I'm generally aware of the issue. My understanding is that there's some impression that commitments were made historically to preserve it.
No, I'm just wondering how much of, is there any
Pa-
interest or
any
use
passion?
for you folks to have weigh in on this issue? Or
A-
this is-
Absolutely. So preserving that park, especially in light of the King County Health, no more trees need to come down. No more of our green spaces. No more of our parks need to go away. And right now it's still zoned to aviation. So, you know, in 20 years we're all going to be gone, and then they can go in and, you know, tear it all down.
So I'm just asking you,
Yeah.
have you been writing to us as well?
Yes, and so Quiet Skies has joined with NOMI and Save sea-tac Park on a number of letters.
Because we've received, this is one of the most obvious issues of concern and one of the most clearly I'm going to deal with. I'm on the JAC, and Hamdi and I, Commissioner Muhammad and I, are going to give you something by the end of the year for sure, and we're working on making sure it's as positive as it can be. And I'm just tired of the fact that these questions have been posed and you haven't been given a straight answer one way or the other. I think you're owed that much. I hope it's an answer you'd like to hear, but I'm committed to trying to make it so.
Thank you. So I did a records request because there's a marina redevelopment, and I could say, is it Embarcadero? Am I saying it correctly? Yeah. So if you go on their website, it says the Port of Seattle / City of Des Moines Marina. And I thought, why would the Port of Seattle be in first position? So I did a records request. I'm still waiting, but I got a little tidbit back, and there was 2 internal documents. I think one was in 17, and then one was a little more current, where Michael Mathias had approached the port to buy the marina and then lease it back to the city. And so, and it was Katie Hassal, what was her name? Katie Simba had written one of the internal memos to say, hey, you know, Michael approached us with this idea. He could talk to you about it when you do the tour of the city. But it happened 2 different years far enough apart. And then when you look at the marina redevelopment, and the Port of Seattle is in first position with the company that is doing it, you know, for lack of a better word. We're just wondering, and we won't know until those records come out, if there's discussions of any partnership, because the city keeps talking about public-private partnership with the Port of Seattle engaging in our marina.
But honestly, so I'm very interested in how this is going, because this is truly a quality of life and economic engine for the area. This is unique for the South Sound communities here. So I appreciate that. I've also known we've been asked for many years to, actually one of the things I did was help. The port has like a very close working relationship with the Army Corps of Engineers because we're always permitting something, right? And you had a retaining wall problem, right? And so I engaged port staff to see if we couldn't expedite a permit for you. You know, that was just like, hey, partners, we know who to call. Let's help that get done. We were walking down here. There was some request for us to help fund your staircase, stairway to heaven, right? And there was there was some other projects that asking for port economic development resources, which is what we're here for. Never to acquire. So, but I mean, we have been, and I'm inclined to. What can we do to help? And then there was the ferry, right? And you were berthing at our marina, Bell Harbor, which you can't do anymore because we're not a ferry terminal. So I was just kind of breaking it. I'm now co-chairing the Highline Forum, and so we just had a great presentation how much we're loving the ferry, and next meeting, not so much. So, but these are partnerships that we're seeking. It's just, I've never heard of acquiring.
Yeah, no, it's on two different, it's port internal documents, and it's in 2 different years, 2 different times, where the city manager Matthias approached the Port of Seattle.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt, like, here, take my problem, please. It's like they're being pinched in. I don't think the port has ever shown any inclination that way, but the inclination is to help. But I was never made aware of a request for purchase, and it seems like we have 5 marinas already, and they're not exactly lucrative. You're sort of providing a public service to provide public access to the water. It's a maintenance nightmare. I mean, it's not but it's great for the surrounding, it's a broadly valuable draw, but it's not a business model that you would seek out in this one. Although it's one thing to own a boat, it's really hard to find a slip. So I mean, it is the rarest commodity. It's just still hard to really make it work.
Let's thank Fred Felleman for coming here.
Thank you for being,
Thank you,
making
Fred.
sure your concerns are heard. Otherwise, how could we be represented?
Do you attend START meetings?
I am not a START person. I am a Highline Forum person. But START is presented at Highline Forum, which is something I made happen.
I only ask that because I have the feeling that things that are discussed in START meetings never get to you. That's just, I've talked to other commissioners, and that they have totally had no idea what was going on. And START is we're supposedly this big deal where that's your way of communicating with the communities. And I don't think it goes beyond the mid-level.
I think it would be very much improved. In fact, so one of the things I did was, because the public can come to a Highline Forum, testify and tell us a thing or two, and they would bring issues up from START there. So I said, part of our briefings each time should be a START update. But the commission officials, so if you're not a chair or co-chair of START, you don't get that feedback. The commission gets an annual START report. And I just got one, and it was really devoid of data.
Annual?
Annual. Which is, and I thought at this point then I would have, a compilation of a lot of information, and it was lacking for anything that would tell me how we're doing relative.
Well,
Having said
that's my
that,
point.
we're all back there at DC right now advocating, and I've seen the letter, and it seems like there's great alignment organization of the cities and the port. So something good is going on, but you're right, there should be more transparency with the commission.
Keep in mind, that's alignment with the city managers, not the city people.
Right.
Just a little point.
Well, I mean, if you see the letter and you want to write a minority opinion or majority
Or
opinion.
majority opinion.
Right? I mean, but again, it's King County. It's a huge place. If you want us to be able to represent you, you gotta let us know. And to his point, we also need to make sure that if we're going to do community outreach work, that it gets back to the folks that are here to represent. I got to say, and I'm not blowing smoke, the fact you guys stay organized, you can bring these things to our attention. This is where we get to know what's going down. So, and independent of are what's being reported out to us. Your direct communication is extremely valuable. That's why I came here, especially with this heated level of stuff going on with class action lawsuits. It does make things a little harder, right? You know, collaboration becomes, I'm sure we're gonna want to pull a little turtle on you. I don't, but I wanted to see, I called Peter Kwan before I came here and I said, are these the same folks? You know, am I gonna, because I can't say anything here, right? And so I would like to keep the dialogue open. Obviously, if you want to just cut us off at the knees, it makes it impossible. But I don't think that's the case. I think we're doing better. There's still a lot more to do. And it's a good political climate right now to get something done while we're all still here. So, thank you.
Thank you. So they want to go home.
Yeah, thanks. We're gonna end the meeting. Thank you. Remember, May 10th? Yep. May 10th, mystery guest speaker. You got to be there. You'll learn who it is shortly.